Imagine if the midfielder every Arsenal fan craved Arsenal to sign this summer transfer window was right under our noses. Imagine a physical specimen standing at 6'4", who's technically sound and has the mobility to match at 22 years of age, the right age profile to be a long-term option in Arsenal's midfield. And also having 60 odd Premier League appearances plus people being Premier League proven, step forward Onana of Everton. Our interest in him goes back to his days at Lille, as you can see. Those initial links, since him obviously leaving Lille and signing for Everton Football Club, have not gone away. And as we enter the transfer window ahead of the 2024-25 season, the rumour mill keeps swirling and linking us with Onana for whatever reason. It could be because he's a good player. It could be because he's obviously been of previous interest to Arsenal. It could be because we're looking for a midfield addition. Who knows? Could he be the man to partner Declan Rice long term and complete that trio of Martin Odegaard and Declan Rice in addition to him and be the long-term midfield that Arsenal fans have been craving? I've always said, when you look at Arsenal's defensive options generally, when you look at our attacking options generally, the vast majority of those players are here for the long term. And if they're not here for the long term in terms of age, there's clarity over their future. The midfield or general midfield options is where there's speculation. We all know Thomas Partey is a fantastic player, but his future is subject to speculation. We all know Jorginho's a great player, but he's not a man that can play 38 games. And with the greatest of respect to him, I think over the last season, he was probably utilised by Mikel Arteta more than he would have liked. Then you've got Emil Smith-Rowe, Fabio Vieira, who haven't convinced or been given really opportunities to showcase such. And then there's Kai Havertz, who's thriving up front versus the central midfield experiment that didn't work at the first half of last season. It is the central midfield area, a position that Edu and Mikel Arteta both played in, that is the subject of speculation, and one that, in my opinion, we can't get away from improving and adapting this off season if we hope to fight Manchester City for a Premier League title. Now, in relation to Onana, I like him a lot. He never hides. He asks for the ball. He's got that positive chip on his shoulder and that mean streak. He can play as an 8 and play as a 6. I don't think his passing is amazing past the point, but I think it's a 6.5/7, which is good enough. I think he's very cultured. He's got the physical qualities to match the technical qualities. He's very comfortable on the ball. He can operate as an 8 and a 6. He actually played as an 8 when he was in Germany at Hamburg, people, as well as a 6. Now, we know Mikel Arteta likes multifunctional players, and where you look in the midfield, Declan Rice is a 6 by trade and has played there for Arsenal, but has also played as an 8. So could it be a thing where two physical powerhouses behind Martin Odegaard could make Arsenal potentially unstoppable? At 22 years of age, I believe now is the time for Onana to step up to another level with the greatest of respect to Everton, in my opinion. On the topic of midfield, where you look at someone like Thomas Partey, unlike his fellow midfield general, Onana can be relied upon physicality-wise. He did have some injuries last season, but he was still able to play 30 of the 38 Premier League games. When I think of Onana, you think of combative duels due to his height and his physical qualities and the typical conventions and conversations around IC3 midfielders. He's adept at being a ball winner in midfield. He can carry the ball further forward to the more expansive attacking players, and that is also a moment and a component of his game which attracts me a lot. At only 22 years of age, he has shown great adaptation skills, people. He's played in 3 countries, really. He's played in Germany, he's played in England, he's played in France, 4 if you count, his homeland or his adopted homeland of Belgium, who he represents at international football. In terms of communication and intelligence, he's clearly intelligent on the field, but he speaks 5+ languages, a bit like Mikel Arteta, which again highlights his intelligence on and off the field and showing that he'll be able to communicate with his teammates beyond the obvious. He'd also arrived with 12 international caps to his name, so he has the temperament for the big time. He's got international experience, and he's only 22 years of age. I believe he's cultured enough on the ball to be able to contribute in all phases of play for Arsenal. Him being a 6 would allow Declan Rice to stay in the 8 role further forward, or the roles could reverse, people, owing back to what I've previously said about multifunctional midfielders, people. I don't think he's perfect. I don't think he's the number one option, but I think Arsenal could do a lot worse than signing Onana owing to the rumours, people. If there was one criticism, I do think he's one of those players who shows extreme amounts of consistency, and throughout the course of a season, he's amazing. And everybody has bad days, but I think he's one, when he has a bad game, he has a really bad game, people. And it's also minimal, but occasionally he loses focus and makes mistakes which, owing to his technical level, are very much preventable. In my opinion as well, you have to ask yourself, how much is Everton going to ask for? Surely they're going to ask for a fortune, people. For me, I am no transfer expert, but I would rate him at about 50 to 60 million quid. Now, if it goes beyond that and starts going into the 70s and 80s, could it be argued, is it actually worth overspending in comparison to some of the midfielders we've been linked with, Frankie de Jong, João Neves, Bruno Gomares, Zubimendi, Douglas Luiz, of course, mouth-watering names and players that we would all love at Arsenal Football Club, some more realistic than others. And I'm not trying to get at Onana, nor am I saying we're going to get those other players. But if it goes beyond a certain price point, is it worth overpaying for Onana? Needs must, and if he's our last option and it stinks of desperation, which is a problem in itself, then I'd understand it. But what does he do in comparison to some of the names we've been linked with that justify overspending? Would there be value for money? Everton, rightly so, are going to ask for a lot of money. I believe he's under contract until 2027. Obviously, he's only 22 years of age. He is Premier League proven. So it would make sense, and they're fully within their rights. But at the same time, as we know, Everton were deducted points last season. They're treading very close where FFP and PSR rules are concerned. So maybe in that regards, they do not have a leg to stand on, people. I also feel it's not really his remit and an area of his game, but he lacks goals. As I said, it's not an area of his game that we need to really be worried about because it's not his remit, but he does have a lack of goals in midfield. And that would be an area he'd have to improve as we look to have a team that contributes in all phases of play beyond the obvious. As much as I say that, though, it's worth remembering Declan Rice, people, just dropped his best goal scoring season under Mikel Arteta, bettering what he had at West Ham United. So again, there is scope for development. Mikel Arteta has shown he can prove that. There's naturally an element of rawness about him, despite his experience, highlighting the fact that he's 22. No biggie, but I do think he has a nice mean streak, which I like. This isn't really something to, really harp on about, but last season in the Premier League, he got 8 yellow cards, people, which could be an area to contest. For context, Kai Havertz got 11, people. His passing for me, once again, is good, but I do think it can be a bit safe. I think he's got the capacity in his skill set to be a tiny bit more adventurous, people. He can play it unnecessarily safe at times, which at Arsenal, of course, 9 times out of 10, you have to play it safe. But I do think he could be more forthcoming with his passing range, if I'm honest with you. I do think he'd have to take a leaf out of Thomas Partey's books, as Partey looks to consistently break the lines, which has a gift and a curse. I describe him as an active, aggressive midfielder. He's very active and aggressive when it comes to his defending first approach. I think he's technically skilled and sound. I think he's strong in the tackle, sometimes even too strong. I think he's got great height, and you've shown Mikel Arteta, has brought that into our side. I believe on a tactical level, there's still a lot to develop, but I do think he would be good, people. I think he's shown me the raw elements to show he can play at a high intensity, and he can play in a high intensity, high pressing style, in which, beyond the obvious, essentially Mikel Arteta demands. And I also think, if he was to sign for Arsenal, he'd be in the opponent's third a lot more than he would be at at Everton. You look at Declan Rice at West Ham, of course, we spend a lot more of our time on the front foot in the opponent's half. So you would have to see different qualities, or qualities that he possesses, taken to another level, people, in an Arsenal shirt. I think he's got solid technique, and I think his playmaking skills, while it's not a remit of his, could be developed further, and he could look to match that to the same way his ball ball winning capabilities are amazing, people. You know, there was a point during his time at Lille, he scored 34.95 passes per 90 in the 2021-22 season. Only in that period, only 9.4 of them went forward. So in other words, people, the overwhelming majority of his distribution was directed sideways or backwards, which shows an element to improve. In conclusion, beyond what I've stated already, I think he's got a great temperament, the great foundation area experience. I think he's got a strong personality, and I think he is someone that is angling, in my opinion, to leave Everton at this moment in time indirectly. You know, in January, his sister/agent spoke of offers that were put their way and how they didn't take them. Again, he has spoken of his Euros campaign being a potential audition for bigger clubs and posted a bit of a cryptic message when interviewed. You know, once again, you would imagine Everton won't let him go cheap because he's an important player to Sean Dyche's side, and rightly so. They'll be in no hurry to let him depart before the Euros or before they source a replacement. He's been linked with several clubs, as someone of his quality will do, and who knows what the future holds. He's under contract at Goodison Park until the summer of 2027, which again strengthens Everton's case of demanding top money. He has been tipped to depart Everton ahead of the upcoming season 2024-25, you know, and there's a reported interest from a host of top clubs, from Arsenal to Barcelona to Manchester United, so on and so forth, people. But as we know, Everton have been running it close, as stated earlier, with FFP/PSR, apologies, and they've been deducted points. So you'd imagine they would have to sell one of their top players, whether that would be Onana, Pickford, or, you know, the young Gerald Braithwaite. So who knows, really and truly. But for what it's worth, I think Arsenal could do a lot worse than signing Onana. I wouldn't necessarily be against it. I think he ties in with what we're doing short, medium, and long term, and he would go in his own part towards addressing our midfield and being the long-term heir to Thomas Partey's throne. Again, it comes down to the price, and who knows? But one thing's for sure, we'll watch this space. On that note, let me know your thoughts on Onana. Do you believe he has the qualities to be a success at Arsenal? Would you sign him? If you would sign him, you know, at what point do you walk away from negotiations dependent on the Everton price tag? On that note, smash the like button, stay safe, stay blessed. I'm off to go edit some more videos for you lot and ensure that your summer is saved and filled with content during this off season. Like, comment, subscribe. God bless you all. Peace.